You're listening to episode number 118 of the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. In this episode, I talk about getting over being liked and seeking approval. Now, I've been a coach for a lot of years, and what I can tell you is that the pursuit of being liked and seeking approval from others is debilitating for most people. And if that affects you in any way, then keep listening. Hi, I'm Jim Fortin, and you're about to start transforming your life from the inside out with this podcast. I'm widely considered the leader in subconscious transformation, and I've coached super achievers all around the world for over 25 years. Here, you're going to find no rah-rah motivation and no hype, because this podcast is a combination of brain science, transformational psychology, and ancient wisdom all rolled into one to take your life to levels you've never thought possible. If you're wanting a lot more in life, to feel better, to heal, to have peace of mind, to feel powerful and alive, and to bring more abundance and prosperity into your life, then this podcast is for you, because you're going to start learning how to master your mind and evolve your consciousness. And when you do that, anything you want then becomes possible for you. I'm glad you're here. I'm curious. Have you ever sat down and asked yourself why it's so darn important for you to be liked? If you're like most people, and I've been there before, you spend so much of your time doing things so that other people will like you. And what I've noticed in my own life many years ago, and it probably applies to you as well, is that you also give up a great deal of your peace of mind and your happiness, and you do a lot of stuff you don't want to do. Why? Because you're trying to be liked. Well, let me share with you as best I can in this episode, and hopefully we can start shaking you loose of that former need to be liked by everyone and going through your life trying to please everyone, the pleaser. And in this episode, we can shake you loose from that. And when we do, you'll look back in a couple of months and you'll think, oh, geez. I mean, how amazing it is to be so free of that desire to please everyone around me, to be liked by everyone, and do everything I can to get people to like me so that, you know what? I can feel better about myself because people like me, when in truth, you might even feel worse about yourself and more unhappy because you're spending so much of your time trying to be liked by everyone. As I look back at my own life, and my many years of people pleasing and not doing things, I look at my life and I'm amazed at how often I just fell into line with what other people are thinking, or I just went along with other people. And I'd say things, well, it really doesn't matter to me, whatever everyone else wants. And in particular, I would not rock the boat. Why? Because if I rock the boat, then people were going to look at me as a boat rocker. Now, this day and age, I mean, I pride myself on being a boat rocker. I mean, that's why I'm on the planet, to rock the boat, to get people to wake up spiritually. But I remember a time in my life where I was quite literally terrified of rocking the boat because if I did that, other people would judge me in a certain way. And then my interpretation was back then is that they wouldn't like me. I remember not speaking my mind, even when things were, and I'm giving you an example here, but I might hire someone to do something and they wouldn't do it well. They'd do a poor job, as a matter of fact, but I wouldn't share what I thought about it and I wouldn't speak up and I wouldn't stand my ground and I wouldn't say, hey, that's not what we talked about. This is what we talked about. But I did so much of that acquiescence because I wanted people to like me. And I remember also that I used to believe that if I didn't speak up and I didn't rock the boat and I went along with everyone else, a belief that I used to have is that, you know what, I'll fit in. And if I fit in, then people are going to like me. And if people like me, and here's the irony for my own thinking, many years ago, is I had equated being a good person because if people liked me, and I had this illusion that everyone had to like me, if everyone liked me, then guess what? The illusion is I'm a good person. And in reality, being a being a good person has nothing to do with how many people like you or don't like you, But that's the illusion that I used to live under for a long, long time. And as I share that with you, many of you can probably relate to that. What I also know, and many of you can probably relate to, is for me, that was draining, always trying to do things to appease people, to acquiesce so that people would like me, so that I could air quote be a good person. I come to know, when I say know, because knowing is different than understanding, but I come to know many years ago, and it's probably about 20 years ago, I'm thinking 2002 or 3, when I came to the knowing that not everyone's going to like me, and I don't have to spend my life doing things to try to get people to like me. And even when I look at this podcast, this is a perfect example that not everyone is going to like me. Now, for the most part, let me back up here. I don't read the reviews, and I don't mean that in any kind of arrogant way. My whole thing is this. I do what I do. I do it to serve, and however people are going to review me or how they're going to review me. I don't consciously say, let me go see what people are saying about me today. In truth, I might have read maybe 10 reviews out of all 600. And I do want to point out, if you've not left a review and I'm helping you in this podcast, please leave a review because that affects algorithms and what other people think about the podcast. And what I'm most concerned about is not what they think about me, but yet if somebody sees a lot of good reviews on this podcast, they might start listening and the podcast can help them. But this podcast is an example of, and I don't have many bad reviews, but I've got some 1 stars and 2 star reviews. And I remember one time when I was looking at reviews for some reason, and somebody even said that speaking about me, I'm a bad person based upon something that I said in one of the episodes. Now, I don't even know how you qualify a bad person or a good person and what morality you use to determine that and what degree and all that. But generally speaking, I think people would say, and I would say of myself, that I'm probably a pretty good guy. I'm probably a pretty good person. But you know what? Putting myself out there like I do, because I know that I'm helping people, people are going to judge me. We've talked about that before. And there are going to be some people that are going to like me, a lot of people that are going to be neutral or indifferent, and there are going to be some people that are going to, which they've done, they're going to hate on me. What I've also noticed, and it doesn't affect me in either way or in any way, I let people do, meaning, well, I can't let anyone do anything, but in my mind, I let them do what they want to do. If they want to say great things, I'm grateful and I appreciate it. If they want to say horrible things about me, my takeaway is this for me and where I live from is that if anyone says something horrible about me, it really has nothing to do with me. Really, it has nothing to do with me. As a matter of fact, whether you like me or you don't like me has nothing to do with me. It has to do, and if you don't like me, this might be your first episode, and you might be like, this guy sucks. I'm not going to listen to this anymore. But most of you, for the most part, pretty much at least like the content. But what I want to share with you is whether you like me or you don't like me has nothing to do with me because you don't know me personally. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the content and your perceptions and your interpretations about the content. So if I'm sitting here trying to be light on the podcast episodes, that's not even what it's about. That's an illusion because it's not me personally. It's not Jim that you're liking. It's what Jim is saying and how it fits into your interpretations of the world and your perceptions that you're liking. And generally, when people say things that fit into our perceptions and interpretations, instead of saying, you know what, I like what that person's saying, we generally will say, I like that person. So, what I'm sharing with you there is that people liking you is not about you. Let that sink in. People liking you or not is not about you. It's about their interpretations and perceptions of you. And it's also about their model of reality. And I'll get to that in just a moment. But people cannot like you. And you can be like the most amazing person in the world, but you don't fit their model of reality, meaning how they organize their internal world. There's an episode that I shot, not shot, there's that old video lingo in me. This episode that I recorded a long while back. And I think the title is I Am Not Who You Think I Am. You Are Who You Think I Am. Consider that. I am not who you think I am. You are who you think I am. And that fits fits in line with what I just shared with you, is that you're not liking me, you're liking me based upon your filters, and you're liking the content based upon your filters. Now, obviously, in this episode, this episode is for you. Hopefully, what's sinking in is that you probably have spent so much time trying to get people to like you, and it's all an illusion. It's all coming through their filters, and it's not about you, it's about their interpretations of you. And by the way, I'll give you some more thought-provoking things to chew on as we go through this episode and at the end of it. But in our time together, as you're starting to listen to this and it's starting to sink in, hopefully you're starting to recognize and you're starting to have that epiphany and that aha that you know what? That's true. Because when you look at your own life and you look at people that you like, notice that you like them based upon your interpretations and your perceptions and your belief about them. And it's generally not about the physical, 3D carbon skin and body. It's about what you think about the person. There's a book, I've not read it, so I can't endorse it, but it's called The Need to Be Liked. And it's by a guy named Roger Coven. Now, again, I can't endorse the book because I haven't read it. But what I did read is that Coven said that pretty much, and he has a PhD. I don't know if that helps anything or makes his work any more credible. But he said pretty much 30% of people you meet in your life, they're not going to like you no matter what you do. So basically it's 70-30. 70% of people will like you. 30% of people will not like you no matter what you do. Now, many years ago, I used to be a platform speaker, a professional speaker speaking from very large stages, and I used to train professional speakers. And this is what I told them. And I mean, it's not scientific, but it's just my observation over the years. This is what I tell people. I say that 10% of your audience, and for you, 10% of people that you meet, 10% of your audience, they're going to love you. They're going to love everything about you. 80% of your audience is going to teeter, yeah, yeah, okay, I get that, I get this, okay, blah, blah, Jim, okay, I'm indifferent, yeah, yeah, blah, blah, okay, yeah, I get it, yeah, I kind of like it. So 10% love you, 80% are somewhere in the middle to some degree at some point at some time, and 10%, they just flat out don't like you. No matter how good your message is, they just don't like you. So hopefully by this point it's sinking in for you is, and I mean this from this is maybe not the right way to say it, but from the bottom of my heart is I don't spend time, let me put it this way. I'm just being transparent with you. I don't spend time and waste my energy trying to get people to like me. Now, I don't know how long you've been listening. If you've been listening for any amount of time, I've shared with you that my brother-in-law is a shaman and I've worked with him for a lot of years. And I'm not sure why in this particular instance that it clicked, but he and I were sitting there talking, and some other people that worked with him were also there. And he wasn't talking to me directly, but he said to the room, to people in the room, he said, and it was just so fleeting, but it stuck with me. And this was literally 20 years ago. He said, "Who cares? Who cares whether or not other people like you or not?" And it's always stuck with me. And in that moment, I've lived from that place. So I want you to consider, think about that. Who cares? Because you may care, but based upon what I've just shared with you, you're wasting a lot of your time and energy trying to get everybody, which is what most people try to do, is they try to get everybody to like them. And that's just not a reality. And I'm giggling here because as I shared this with you, one of the earlier reviews that I had when I said in an episode, I don't care what people think about me. And somebody actually put in their reviews, well, Jim said he doesn't care what people think about him, and that's not the truth. And if he really meant it, he wouldn't say that. That's a ridiculous comment the person made. The truth, as I'm telling you, the truth is people are going to like me or they're not, but I can't make people like me. And the same thing with you. And that's what I want you to start again getting your teeth into this episode is, you know what? Breathe. People are going to like you. People are not going to like you, but all that you can do is you can be you. And geez, on that note, I spent so many of my earlier years not being me, being who I thought other people wanted me to be or conforming in some way. And I read a quote. There were some things that just kind of hit me like a two by four right between the eyes. I read a quote one time and it was a huge epiphany and aha. And that quote was this. And this was well before, I don't even know where I read it because this was well before social media. This was like the fledgling internet, 1989, 1998, 99, and that was fledgling for me. But the quote was, "I would rather I'd rather be hated for who I am than liked for who I am not." And when I read that, it just dawned on me, you know what? Why don't I just be me? Just be me and be the best version that I can because no matter what I do, there are just going to be people that are going to hate on me, people that are not going to like me. And when you really think about it, I mean, put yourself, I guess in my place, but any of our places, really, it's ridiculous. What's the point of trying to get everyone to like you? I mean, it's not like you can be friends with with every single person in the world, right? I mean, so what's the point of trying to get everyone to like you? It's ridiculous. I want to segue here for a second, and I do want to point out that I recognized long ago that generally it's not human beings that we are in love with or human beings that we like. Generally, what we're in love with and what we like is our ideas and our beliefs about who that human being is. And what I'm working on is being in love and liking the human being. But my caveat here is this, because you might be wondering, I don't know. But my caveat is I can like I can like someone, but I can still choose to not want to be around them. I remember because their energy is toxic. And it doesn't mean that they're an air quote bad person, and it doesn't mean that I have to dislike them. It just means that I choose not to entangle in that, to be around them. And that's kind of akin to I remember talking to a really good friend of mine, and he was telling me about his stepdaughter. And he told his stepdaughter, she was in college, and she was really a brat. I mean, I knew his stepkids, and she was a brat. And he told her one time, he said, "Susan, you know what? I love you, but you know what? I don't like you. I do not like being around you." So I wanted to draw that distinction there because maybe you're wondering about how you can apply this to other people and, flip the coin as opposed to, you're always trying to be liked. Well, you know what? You're not always going to like everyone. So the caveat that I'm putting in there, there's a difference between liking the person and then making interpretations and beliefs and perceptions and liking those because you can still, and this is a very subtle distinction, you can still like the person yet not like some of their beliefs or their interpretations or things that they say or things that they do in the world. So as you can see, it's a huge illusion to even talk about liking people. Because again, it's not the people that we like for the most part, and you might be shifting your thinking and listening to this episode. It's our perceptions, our interpretations, and our beliefs about that person. But you know what? Our interpretations and our beliefs and our perceptions have nothing to do with the value of the person. And I remember when this aha that I just shared with you came to me, I was telling a friend of mine how much I liked another friend. And my friend also taught neurolinguistics, the friend that I was telling. And he said, "You like Rob so much because Rob is a really smart guy. He's a Harvard graduate. He worked at Goldman Sachs. He was a VP at Goldman Sachs in Manhattan, and he became a business partner of mine. But Chris said, he goes, you like Rob so much because Rob is really smart, and smart is a very high value to you. And it dawned on me that, you know what? Chris is right because I've only known Rob for a couple of months. So, how is it that I really like Rob when I've only known Rob a short time? More so, it's that I like Rob because he's very intelligent. I like his values and I like that he's very smart. So hopefully that delineation gives you more food for thought so that you can look at how you like people and it helps you separate specifically about this episode how people are liking you and it's not about you. An example here, and I'll move on, is the Rorschach test. That's the ink blot test. We've all seen it, whether or not you're familiar with it professionally, scholastically, psychologically, or you've seen it on TV somewhere. It's the ink blot that the psychologist or a psychologist holds up and goes, "What do you see?" Well, guess what? The value of the ink blot is it's simply the ink blot. It's simply the observer making the interpretation about the ink blot. So that being said, I could say that we're all ink blots, and it's simply the value that the interpreter is making up. And when you look at it from that perspective, it becomes so freeing because you no longer have to try. You no longer have to try to get people to like you because, no matter who you are and no matter what you do, people will like you and people will dislike you, but yet you're the same person. So, for example, let's look, and I think everyone knows globally, and if not, he was a very famous mass murderer back in the US back in I believe, the late 60s and 70s, was Charles Manson. Now, there were millions of people who did not like Charles Manson. But the reality is all these millions of people that did not like him never met the guy. They simply did not like their beliefs and their interpretations about him. But on the flip side, something that I just said, there were also people because he had followers that did like Charles Manson. So the point is, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, people are going to like you and they're not going to like you. And I think you've already gotten it by now. If you're spending your life trying to get everybody to like you, literally, it's just like a vacuum cleaner sucking something out of a rug. It's like swoosh. You're just wasting all of your energy and trying so hard to get other people to like you, but it's not you, it's their interpretations of you. Now, you might not be wondering, and you know, I learned long ago that the two biggest fears that people have are the fear of abandonment, and we feel like if we're not liked, we're going to be abandoned, and the fear of inadequacy. Now, I've not gone and looked for any research on this, but I have to believe, doing what I've done for a lot of years, is that the reason people try to fit in, I mean, so much, is because if I don't fit in, people are going to reject me. And if they reject me, then I'm not going to be part of the herd, part of the group. And if I'm not part of the group, then I'm going to be castigated. And if I'm castigated and I'm outside of the group, now I don't have the tribe or the group or the herd to protect me and feed me. So I believe, and knowing what I know about brain-based psychology and everything else, that our need to be liked is archaic. It's survival based. Many years ago, when we were in tribes and we were hunters and gatherers, is we had to have people like us, and if they didn't like us, they, they tossed us outside of the tribe, and then that's a bad place to be because why? Because now you're out there with the tigers and the snakes and everything else alone, and now you're no longer safe. What I also want to point out is on the flip side, it's okay to want to be liked. I mean, honestly, if you said, Jim, do you prefer to be liked or do you prefer to be disliked? Or are you neutral? Even though I said, you know what, I don't care who likes me and who doesn't. If you gave me a preference, obviously I'd say, well, I prefer to be liked. There's nothing wrong. I think it's human. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be liked. However, where it becomes a challenge for a lot of people is when they give up themselves. They become a people pleaser. They give up their authenticity. They give up their own beliefs. They give up their own wants. They give up their own desires so that other people will like them. That's when I believe that it becomes a problem. So, for example, in order to be liked, and I've been there, I'm no longer there now because I have what I call a very firm yes and a very firm no. Meaning, very firm, yes, I will do XYZ things. Very no, I will not do XYZ things. But in the past, I didn't have that. And I would encourage you, based upon what you're learning here, to create very, very firm yeses and very firm nos. And when you use your very firm no sometimes, which I'll get to in just a minute, some people are going to be angry with you. And then some people say, well, if people are angry, they're not going to like me. But I'll get to that in just a moment. Okay. Now, do you go to events and do you do things you don't want to do? Because if you don't, you think people are not going to like you. Do you do what other people think that you should, air quote, do you do things that other people think you should do because they think you should do it and you do it even though you don't want to do it? It's kind of like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to do this. I really, 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 really don't want to go to that party tonight. Why? Because Bob's going to be there, or Susan's going to be there, or it's cold. I don't know, some reason, but you really don't want to go. And then other people badger you. Come on, come on, come on. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then you actually say, okay, I will go. Why? Because I want to keep everyone else happy. Because when I keep everyone else happy, they will like me. And then you're miserable at the party or whatever it is that you that you went to. And I'm laughing because I see so much of this lunacy that we human beings get into. How about this? Do you give up something that you want in life so other people can have what they want? And I don't mean this is not about being selfish or not selfish or any of that, but it's not even about sacrifice. But let's say, for example, that you want to spend time at home tonight with a good book and you want to cuddle up and you want to put the fireplace on and have a glass of wine, and that's what you want, but you give it up because other people want or expect or they say you should do certain things and you've become the people pleaser. You want to please everyone because you don't want to rock the boat. So you give up what you want, and then what happens is you give it up, you don't have a good time, you're resentful, many times you're not good company anyway, and you gave up what you want so other people can get what they want just so you could please them. How about this? Do you not speak out? Do you not speak out when you know that you should? Now, I hold nothing against myself for this. I don't really hold things against myself anyway. But when I was in the fourth grade, I remember because it was Mrs. Wickline's room. That was homeroom, 1974, I believe. Now I grew up in the poorest county in the nation, and my parents were working class, and pretty much all my friends were poor. But there was one girl in my class that was near, I guess, abject poverty. And ironically, the other kids that were poor, I walked into class one morning, the teacher wasn't there. They were making fun of her. And I stood back and I definitely did not participate. Matter of fact, I was hurting. I was like, I can't believe these kids are doing this to another kid. Now, would I have spoken up or not spoken up, that's a whole different subject at this point in my life. But there was a point in my life where I would speak up and I would be kind of like the cause leader for a lot of people. I'm not at that same place anymore in my life and where I am at this point in my consciousness, and I'm sure I'll create an episode on that. And the title will be along the lines of what pertains to you in life. However, point for another time. But my point right now is, do you not speak up? Whether on behalf of other people or even on behalf of yourself, because you're afraid of rocking the boat or you're afraid of not pleasing someone. And shockingly enough, I mean, when I say shockingly, it's shocking to me the amount of people that are in their 30s and 40s and 50s and they are still parent pleasers. I mean, for crying out loud, they're 40 years old and they're still bending over backwards pleasing their mother who's 70. Why? Because they definitely don't want to rock the boat and they don't want mother to be mad at them or whatever it is. And then finally, is are you giving up your time and doing things you don't want to do because you want to be liked? And then you know what? You give up your time and you do things you don't want to do. And then, as I said earlier, many times you hate doing it. This day and age, I mean, I'm 55 years old, but when I was a kid, many times, and if people help me, I would always help them back. No question about it. Reciprocity of life. Ayni, Ayni, ancient Incan for reciprocity. But something that I never enjoyed doing was moving on a Saturday afternoon. And growing up in Texas and being in Texas in that 100-degree heat, this day and age, if somebody asks me to do something that I don't want to do, and I just thought about that example of moving. This day and age, I'd say I'm not going to help you move, but I'll pay for your move or I'll help you with the move, but I'm not going to do it. My whole point is this day and age, I have my firm yeses and I have my firm nos. I will do X, Y, Z, and A, B, C, and E, F, G. I will not do LMNOP. Those are not things that I enjoy doing. I do not want to do it. And my firm no, whether you like it or not, my firm no is that I am not going to do that. Now, at first, for many of you, that might be a little challenging. Why? Because it's confrontation, and many of you like to avoid confrontation. You'd rather endure the pain of doing something you don't like or people pleasing and the many years of pain of that than the short term discomfort of confrontation. But I've learned over the years that you know what? I simply just speak up. Some will like it, some will not. That is not my problem. Okay, so I have some questions for you here. I've got some questions and I want you to think through these. How much do people have to like you before you stop trying to get them to like you? Do they have to like you 50% of what they possibly could? And then how would you possibly know the capacity for them to like you? Because people can only like you based upon how much they like themselves. But how much do they have to like you before you stop trying to be liked? Is it 30%? Is it 70%? Is it 90%? And by me asking you that question, you can see how ridiculous it is for you to try to get everyone to like you because there's no way you can qualify whatever and to how much and to what degree people like you. Another question that I have for you is this. How will you know when you're liked enough? So I just asked you a couple of minutes ago is how much they have to like you, but the next question is how are, how are you going to know when they've hit that point? So to see how ridiculous this is, if you said, well, they've got to like me 50%, how are you going to know when they hit that 50%? Are you going to say, you know what, Susan, I want you to like me and I want you, you know what, tell me it's like filling up a glass of water. When we're at 50% and you like me 50%, I can stop trying to get you to like me. But here's the thing. I want you to tell me when you're at 50% so that I will know when I can stop trying to people please and I can stop trying to get you to like me. So Susan, okay, let me know when we are at 50%. All right. Another question is how many people have to like you? And how much do they have to like you? Does 90% of the population need to like you? I'd mentioned earlier that whatever his name was, the psychologist, David Coving, I believe I said something like 30% of the population's not going to like you no matter what you do. So does 70% have to like you? And that means at least like 2.1 billion are not going to like you. But if 2.1 billion don't like you, I don't even know how many people are on the planet. What, 7.5, 8 billion? So does that mean like 5.5 billion could like you, but 2.5 billion can't like you, and you're okay with that? If you're in a class, just a simple example here, does 80% of the class need to like you? Does 90%? How much? You may or may not know by this point, but I teach transformational programs. Right now, we're finishing up next couple of weeks, the current program that I'm doing. We have 511 people enrolled in that program. And I tell them week number one, my job is to create transformation in your life. Whether you like me or you don't like me is simply irrelevant. I don't care whether you like me or you don't like me. What I do care about is that you get the change that you are here for. Because I know this, even though I have a huge re-registration rate, people stay with me, anywhere from 50 to 70% of people that go through a program with me re-register and stay with me. But the percentage that leave, Maybe they leave because they've gotten enough. Maybe they leave because they don't like me. I don't know. But this is what I do know, and I have empirical evidence to demonstrate it, is that at least 98% of people that go through a program with me, they get significant change in their life. I mean, for crying out loud, how long have you been listening to this podcast? And the reason that you listen is because you're getting change, and it's a podcast, not even a program. But what I'm sharing with you is even in my programs, I tell people, and it's nice to be liked, but I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to be your best friend. My job is to move you from where you are to where you want to go in life. And whatever happens as a result of that and what you feel about me doesn't have anything to do with me. So, another question that I have for you is, can you be okay? Because here's where the power comes in. Can you be okay with not being liked by everyone? Deep breath and exhale. Because when you can work from that place, that you're okay. You get it. It makes sense. I mean, come on, let's use our common sense. You don't like everyone. Forget the examples I gave you about interpretations and beliefs earlier. The reality is, and how you think about the world and people, you don't like everyone. So it stands to reason, why would everyone like you? And when you can come to being okay with not being liked by everyone, I promise you, take that out, start using it. When you can be okay with that, that is power and that is freedom. And that gives you authenticity because you can just, you know what? You can be you however you are. And like I tell people, you just be you. You can be you. Another question for you, and if you've been with me for any amount of time, you know that I ask questions, is what is it costing you to try to be liked by everyone? What is it costing you in your family? What is it costing you? And here's a big thing. What is it costing you in terms of peace of mind? You've heard me say before probably that you can't do anything well without peace of mind. How much peace of mind have you given up trying to get people to like you? But in business, like me, I put myself out there, like right now with this podcast. And as I said, I know everyone's not going to like me. What I want to share with you is not entirely because of this podcast. A percentage of my business comes from this podcast. But guess what? If I sat on the sideline years ago and I said, okay, Jim, you can't put yourself out there until everyone likes you, I wouldn't be making the impact and the difference that I'm making in the world. And because I'm making a difference in the world and I'm making an impact, guess what? I also, reciprocity of life, I garner and people give me energy, they give me money. So, as a result of me being okay with not being liked by everyone, my business also attracts multiple millions of dollars per year. Now, if I were afraid and I said everyone has to like me and until everyone likes me and I'm not going to put myself out there, well, guess what? My business would not attract and make multiple millions of dollars per year. So what would it cost me? It would cost me two things, maybe three things. It would cost me millions upon millions of dollars. It would cost me the ability to help the amount of people that I helped. And finally, and most important to me, it would cost me the life satisfaction that I get from helping people transform their life. So I can sit here all day long and not do anything because I want everyone to like me and I would never get anything done. So, your transformational takeaway this week is that trying to get everyone to like you is an illusion. It's a trap. No matter what you do, no matter what you do, 30%, maybe even more, but at least 30% of people aren't going to like you anyway. And it's now obvious. You trying to get everyone to like you is just, it's not achievable. And for many of you, it is a great source of wasting your time and your energy trying to go out in the world and get everyone to like you. So, how about this? How about this? Why not just you be you? why not have a firm yes or a no? Why don't you go out in the world and show the world who you are and be who you are, and those that will like you will, and those that won't, and there's nothing you can do about that. Okay, thanks for listening and do what you can to make it a great day today. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family. You know, if you found value, they will too. So please share via your social media channels. Also, if you have questions, I'm here to assist. You can email me questions to support@jimfortin.com, and I may even use your question for a future podcast episode. Also, if you want transformational content like this daily, connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram name is I am Jim Fortin. Finally, I do have a personal request. I believe that we're all here to help others and to grow and evolve ourselves. Together, you and I, let's help more people. If you would please leave a review on iTunes, and a good one by the way. I'd be grateful, and through your assistance together, we can transform more lives. Thanks for listening.